Welcome back to the Torque Test channel. You guys have often asked us, what is the power loss, if any, from an extended anvil on an impact wrench? Is it similar maybe to impact extension losses that we saw with those? As we are but humble servants, today we're going to do just that by dyno testing the impact wrench, then swapping its extended anvil in to see what's what. And as a viewer wanted to send us his new CP8849, the new high torque hotness from Chicago Pneumatic, with an extended anvil, we figured now would be a great time to see what that can do versus a Milwaukee high torque and others, then find out if it can really be compared to a standard anvil high torque on our rank chart. Daniel over at Real Tool Reviews was really given a hard time years back when comparing an Aircat 1250K to an IRTI Max with an extended anvil, even though IR, like most brands, does rate their extended anvil the same as a standard length. It must have been enough ribbing that he went into retirement, so we're anxious to see today if we can put that to rest. This is Chicago Pneumatic's latest cordless impact wrench, courtesy of Roy, the chili dog expert. Chicago Pneumatic has been one brand that's been very lacking on the channel. Luckily, we can help remedy that today and maybe more so in the future. The CP8849 is packing some serious specs. For torque, no nut busting or breakaway, a real breath of fresh air there. And for max torque, 850 foot-pounds, or as they say, 850 plus, which is a new one for us. Maybe that plus is talking about its size though. The CP high torque is not shy in that regard. Even CP's page shows its length in feet. It clocks in at 10 inches. Compare that to the Milwaukee M18 at 8.4 inches, and it's quite a difference. Oh, and we're talking about the standard impact length here. The extended anvil is another 5 or so inches longer than that. Enough so that it doesn't really even fit on screen here. Of course, we're comparing to a standard anvil on an air tool here, so let's throw in a 6-inch anvil IR. Yeah, that CP is just incredibly long. Really a wheel gun to its core, and not going to be used for much else. In that wheel gun vein of thinking, CP does have modes on this gun that are a percentage of torque output, supposedly. Pretty cool. We'll test those today to see if 50%, for example, on this gun is really 50% on the torque graph. What's also breaking records on this tool is its price. Our kit is the top dog one that comes with two 6.0 batteries for between $500 and $590. Even as a bare tool, it's $375 to $390, which is a record for this channel in half-inch high torques. At that price, it will certainly be going up against IR cordless. We think it competes most directly with, as both of them you usually won't be already having those batteries and need to pick up the whole kit. With the performance of the IR we showed recently on this channel, and the always dependably high numbered hitting Milwaukee M18, heck, let's throw in a super highly ranked Bosch Pro Factor 2, this CP has its hands full selling at that price and forcing our hand to put it up against some of this big stuff. Let's see how it does then with its extended anvil, whether that's a hamstring or not. Our first test is called working torque. That's 5 seconds and forward. Let's see the IR up against Milwaukee and Bosch first, simply because that Ingersoll Rand is an absolute monster in this test. IR in gray on the screen. We still can't get over that 639 foot-pound figure. In a 5-second test, when we started out on this channel, we weren't hitting that number in 15 seconds. And here now for the CP extended anvil, with the deep socket on, this guy feels like you could be doing lug nuts from a whole nother room, shown in black on the screen. So beating out the Pro Factor here, but not getting close to those other two, which admittedly are some of the hardest hitting, highest scoring in this test we've ever tested. Since that 50% setting is likely going to be used on lug nuts or the like, let's see that 50% setting on this shorter 5-second test. $139. Sort of makes sense for a lug nut, but you can even tell when hearing or using this tool, it's not really giving you 50%, more like 27% as we see here. Wonder how they worked out that math. Our next test is called max torque, 10 seconds and forward. Median runs on screen as usual. Here's the Bosch in blue up against M18 and Ingersoll Rand. The IR starting to plateau there, and the Bosch catching up with that sneaky 8 amp hour Profactor battery that they require. Here's the CP on the screen in black. $680's quite good here, almost surpassing the IR. We're about on its way to, but not quite Bosch or M18 numbers yet from this big guy. Our last test before we see if this extended anvil is what's holding this impact back is best case scenario. Freshly charged batteries, the best runs they could muster in forward or reverse. The CP preferred forward by about 30 foot-pounds. Let's see that versus all the others on screen as well. $740, certainly up there against a lot of the impacts we've tested on this channel, doing well enough to pass the 734 foot-pound IR in the end, but take a look at the gaps on the curves between the CP and IR here. The IR is just killing it down low with that dynamic torque, likely able to bust up corrosion with more ease than the CP, with a performance gap like this, despite the peak numbers that they happen to say at the end. But maybe that performance disparity is due to an extended anvil. Let's find out. Here's the IR231C, which made 500 foot-pounds exactly all the way back in episode 2 on this channel. This China-made version making more power than its US-made counterpart from IR. Today it's making, let's see, 512 foot-pounds. You'd love to see it. Now let's swap in an IR extended anvil on this exact tool to see what happens. It's a pretty simple process if you're looking to convert one of these versus the other at home with most tools. Let's see how we should treat the CP high torques data by running this extended anvil on the dyno. Would having a long one actually be worse, like I've been telling my wife, or is something else going on? Let's see. $514, our gauge face timing out there towards the end, but we were able to get the data nonetheless. But essentially zero difference between the anvils. We often see more difference between runs on the same exact tool than you're seeing here. We theorize that the losses we see with impact extensions are a combination of an increase in joint locations interfacing between the two different pieces, and of course the extension being much smaller in diameter than an anvil, acting as sort of a torque limiting extension, albeit unintentionally. So that means off to the rank chart, we can tally the CP's points as usual versus competition without considering its longer anvil length. Starting down here, for now its power runs are turned into points. That's 52, 68, and 74. Really some top shelf stuff in the category. For length, we'll use the standard CP8849 here since we saw no measurable difference in anvil length versus performance, but that's still a massive 10 inches, making even the enormous cordless earthquake above it at 9.6 inches blush. That results in 74 points. Its torque claim is 850 and it made 740. It gets 87 or 87% of that. Not bad. The next column is not one this tool is going to love though. Even sold bare, this tool goes only as low as $375. That results in 29.6 points, the lowest of any half-inch cordless we've tested. That totals 384.6, or enough for 13th, bumping the Flex down and situated just below the Makita. Of course, it makes more power than the Makita, it just costs a lot more too. But if you want to rank things purely by power, we have a list for that. It's our average power list, which balances peak and dynamic torque. The CP8849 tops the Makita there with 561, but not by much, and it remains in 13th there too, oddly. We like the CP gun. It's hard to deny it really did put the power down today as we put it up against some of the best half-inchers we've ever tested. And we think this is a good buy if you own CP batteries. If you're looking to pick up this gun and what comes along with it needs to be batteries and a charger for 500 plus, it's hard to ignore the IR 20 volt gun if you're going to be weighing those options already. It will do everything the CP gun can and better, we think, unless you want or need that extended anvil for strictly wheel work. then hey, give this gun a go, it's a good one. Just don't expect 50% of the beans when you have 50% selected, but that should be great for running down some lug nuts. Stay tuned as we sprinkle in more high torques, hit subscribe to make that possible, and thanks for watching.